Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 130th ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the Revel Advertising Studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Auber, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm just fine, Cameron. How are you?
I'm doing well. Producer Cameron, he really gets into that episode number every time. I feel like he just starts nodding, oh yeah, 130.
I didn't know anyone noticed that.
Oh, I noticed.
Blown away every time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do a little.
Oh yeah. Just you start feeling the good vibes when you hear that number.
It's
been
exciting.
doing this a while.
It's pretty awesome.
Kyle, I'm doing well because the weather is truly beautiful in Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah.
Sometimes I am lying. I'm just flat out lying when I say that.
You weren't lying today.
Yeah.
We went from, we're probably 50 degrees warmer, or even maybe more than we were this time last week.
Yeah. Yeah. When all that snow melted in 2 seconds, it kind of created a few swamps in certain areas, but we're all dried out now. Everything's great. Ready for summer. I'm just kidding. We'll enjoy the in-between season.
Gotta enjoy the in-between.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get ahead of yourself here.
I wouldn't. Well, Kyle, we got quite a bit to talk about today. Before we get into that, we just want to give a thanks to all of our listeners. We've been shouting out the YouTube viewers lately, and I don't want the audio-only listeners to forget.
The OGs.
We love you. Whatever podcast service you're listening on, we really appreciate it. And don't forget to leave us a review on any of those services you might be using to listen to us. We would surely appreciate it. And don't forget, we have a Patreon page, patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod. You can support us over there if you would like. Kyle, we got a new defensive backs coach.
Yes, we do.
That's the only news I have for today, so we'll really relish in it.
Yeah, that happened pretty quick. We were talking about David Gibbs departing last week, and already have a new hire today, which actually I think was made official yesterday. Aaron Fletcher from Tulsa. He was there for 6 years, which is actually, I'm not 100% sure if he was there for 6 years in that DB coach role or if he was in other roles, but either way, in this world of coaching, 6 years is a pretty long time to stay anywhere. Even for head coaches, that can be a long time.
Yeah.
So, he seemed like a really, really interesting guy, and he wrote a letter kind of thanking the city of Tulsa and the program for just being a great place over the last 6 years of his time there, and was legitimately thankful for the experiences he's had. So that was pretty cool to get to see his perspective and kind of reflect on his time there.
So do we have the full defensive coaching staff filled out now?
I think we do.
Wow. It'll be interesting to see.
Let's get some recruits.
Yeah. We'll see if there's any noticeable changes in their play next year.
Yeah, I know Mizzou's kind of targeted a different kind of defensive back recruit in the last couple of cycles. They've really tried to go after those tall, longer cornerbacks, and I know that was kind of a Ryan Walters thing, and maybe a Barry Odom thing, but so it'll be interesting how, obviously that doesn't sound like a bad thing, but
right.
They were clearly, that's the measurables for all of the corners they had in this class, which there was several of them, 4 or 5. So it'll be interesting to see what, philosophy-wise, if that kind of fits what they want to do, or if they'll maybe kind of try and target a different kind of style in the future. But that's what they've got right now. I got a lot of those kind of guys to work with.
Yep, I'm going to be looking forward to the pass rush that we've been hearing about from these new coaches. Hopefully they institute that and it works well for us. Well, that's all the news we've got, so let's jump into Missouri's win over South Carolina. They beat South Carolina 93-78. Nice little bounce back game for the Tigers. Drew Smith had 17 points and 7 assists. Penson with 16 points. Mark Smith with 13. Kobe Brown with 12. And then Jeremiah Tillman in his return, 17 points, and notably 7 for 7 from the free throw line.
Yeah, I think he was 5 for 5 from the field too.
Perfect game.
Perfect game.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't really know how to react to this game. Obviously, it was great to see Missouri blow somebody out. They really didn't seem to have any difficulty whatsoever with South Carolina on the road. That's at the end of the year. That's a great thing that you want to see, especially bouncing back from a couple of tough losses. Missouri easily beat South Carolina both times they played them. They match up well with them, and South Carolina has had a terrible season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just a lost year for them. Frank Martin has been struggling with his health, and their players have been in and out, and they've played half the amount of games as anybody else, and so
I feel like they haven't played as bad as you would expect.
right, yeah.
For all those
Against Missouri,
issues.
they haven't played super well,
True.
but they have played well against other teams. So
they've obviously got some good pieces like
yeah,
Keyshawn Bryant and AJ Lawson.
AJ Lawson's a great player, and he's averaging like 18 points a game. I think he scored more than that.
Both of
against
those guys
Mizzou.
should be back next year.
Yeah, they've got pieces. They just have they've clearly been through a lot. It's been a weird year for them. So Missouri should blow out a team that's going through struggles like that.
You have this like tone of your voice, like something else happened that dampened your spirits.
I can't possibly think of anything else.
Okay.
That happened maybe like 3 days after that.
All right. Well, okay. We'll see if we can bring something like that up. Yeah, AJ Lawson had 22 in this game. He was 4 for 11 from 3. As a team, Missouri had 1.26 points per possession. I think that was one of their best on the season. I was looking back at some of their previous high marks with that specific statistic, and KenPom doesn't actually track that one specifically, but just offensive efficiency. I was reminded of a few fun games. So one of them being the Oklahoma game that I attended in 2012. We've talked about that one a few times.
Didn't they win by about 40?
Yep, and that's the, let's see, 5th highest offensive efficiency in the KenPom era for Missouri, and the only one in that top 5 that is a conference game.
I believe that was their first conference game of the season that year.
Correct.
Man, that was a fun year.
And then another one that was right up there was a South Carolina game in 2013. And I actually have the box score from that one. Jabari Brown was your KenPom MVP, but he didn't even have the highest offensive rating on the team with a 166 because Alex Oriaki had an offensive rating of 184.
Oh, my.
Which is just kind of unheard of. 18 points, perfect from the field, perfect from the free throw line.
Probably like 12 rebounds, too.
He didn't actually play that many minutes, surprisingly. So it wasn't kind of like a monster game all around for him. But a classic Phil Pressey 9 assists, 0 point game in like just a blowout win.
Wow.
But this one didn't quite reach that level, but still an incredible offensive performance for Missouri. They were due for one, and at least we hoped they were because it had been a struggle recently.
Yeah, I mean, South Carolina just wasn't creating the pressure to stop Xavier Pinson getting in the lane. I feel like that's really kind of the key to how well Missouri's offense is going to work, unless they're just shooting lights out threes, which can kind of bail them out.
They did shoot 45% in this one.
Sometimes I feel like that can bail them out of bad possessions, but other times, I really feel like the key is how well Xavier Pinson can penetrate the lane, and he was able to do that pretty well in this game. Obviously, scoring and feeding it to Tillman both.
Yeah, so they were, as a team, they were 64% from 2 and 9 for 20 from 3, and then also a good day from the free throw line. Obviously, we mentioned Tillman, but 16 for 19 overall on free throws. There's something I was going to say about Pinson. Yeah, just his ability to convert at the rim is huge, because if he's getting in there, and we'll get to that, some of that type of stuff here in a minute, but if he's getting in around the rim and just kind of like tossing it up there and like hoping for a foul and that kind of thing, then it doesn't work as well. When he's being crafty and getting it up off the backboard, and he's so dynamic when he's doing that, and this just showed. The offensive performance definitely surprised me, the fact that they were able to kind of do it all in this game. I wish they would have maybe saved a little bit for the next one. But I do stand by the fact that South Carolina scoring 78 points that's not quite where you want to be if you're Missouri. And probably a little bit of that came in garbage time. And sometimes an opponent will, score a few extra baskets when the game's out of reach. But I think my actual prediction for this game was a Mizzou win that was way too close for comfort, 79-78. And I said that South Carolina would score more points than we were comfortable with. So I still don't like the fact that we gave up 78 points, but obviously if you're scoring 93, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, sometimes.
But that 93, it just feels unsustainable for Missouri.
Oh, for sure. And sometimes I think when players know, and I think Mizzou knew in this game they could score at will because South Carolina's defense wasn't able to keep up. Sometimes whenever we're going to be able to score enough to win this game, you probably don't play as good a defense as you might against a better opponent. But still, I agree. 78 points seems like a lot to give up to South Carolina.
South Carolina did have a little bit of a run. They cut the lead to 59-52 with about 10 minutes left.
And knowing Mizzou's second half struggles, especially in conference season, I was a little bit worried. I was getting uncomfortable.
But they turned it on, obviously, in that last 10 minutes. They went from 59 points to 93. So everything was fine. Everything looked good. One interesting stat I found, Missouri with 30 defensive rebounds. Fantastic. But only 3 offensive rebounds. Now, that speaks a little bit to the fact that they were making a lot of shots. But I wanted to point out Missouri in the SEC now is dead last, 14th in offensive rebound percentage. And that's where I actually thought there was a strength there in the non-conference.
Yeah, it's there's nothing more frustrating than the other team. Well, are you saying that Missouri didn't get
Missouri,
a lot of Missouri
as an offense
does not get a lot of second chance points? Yeah.
And they have also now dropped to dead last in free throw percentage in conference play. 14th, and that's 68%.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
We need our guards to get fouled more. It seems like the only people shooting free throws are bigs, which is part of just getting the ball inside to them more.
Yeah.
Which is what I definitely think is a good thing for Missouri's offense, but I don't know. Drew Smith has got to figure out how to get to the line. Xavier Penson's got to figure out how to get to the line more. If those guys are attacking, we need them to be shooting free throws.
Yeah, I mean, 19 attempts is not a ton, and 7 of those were Tillman. And if he just shoots his...
And he's not going to go 7 for 7 very often,
If
probably.
he shoots his season average, if you're lucky, that's 4 out of 7.
Yeah.
But that was still a good win. I mean, it's everything we could have asked for in a game against South Carolina.
I think I knew coming into this game, like, okay, yeah, South Carolina's beaten down pretty bad this year. Missouri matches up well. They're probably going to come in here and win. But don't get too high after this win. But I wish I would have taken my own advice. And I think it's just the way Missouri won and how good they looked and how efficient they were. And
Tillman coming back and looking fantastic.
I think that was the big thing. Tillman coming back and was like that kind of just like, oh man, that just felt good. Like Tillman's back. He's as good as ever. And everybody was scoring. Mark Smith scored in double digits in this game. Like
3 for 5 from 3.
And Torrance Watson even had a nice game. Like it just felt like wow, everybody we're getting hot at the right time, and I duped myself, and I believed that we were back and that we were ready to finish the season strong, but I think I was wrong.
I think a lot of people thought that a corner had been turned. Unfortunately, we seem to have just a terrible struggle with teams from Mississippi, specifically Ole Miss. And
what is that?
I don't know.
Ole Miss, like Mississippi State, like if we're playing these teams, like I just know we're gonna lose. There's just a pit in my stomach. Like where this is not gonna go well. We're gonna lose. It's gonna be the ugliest thing you've ever watched.
Yeah, it's become the biggest thing for a Mizzou basketball season is like splitting with either one of these teams. If you've got a home and home with Ole Miss or Mississippi State and you get one of those as a win, like, oh my gosh, like, you're maybe going to win the SEC.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to think like, oh yeah, split with Tennessee. Wow, that's a big deal. Split with Arkansas. That's what I'm talking about. None of that matters. You got to split with the Mississippi
And
schools.
these teams, it's not like these teams are good.
No.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, Ole Miss is a bubble team at best. I mean, they have work left to do to get onto the bubble, let alone be on the right side of it on Selection Sunday.
Is Conzo Martin and like Kermit Davis have some kind of like gentleman's agreement? Like, all right, we're gonna help you guys get in the field this year. Like, we're gonna lose to you both times. Like, it's like these mediocre SEC teams are just taking turns, like punching us in the face, getting their top 25 win, just taking turns, just knocking off a top 25 team.
Well, and Ole Miss now jumped ahead of Missouri in the SEC standings.
Yeah, I know. Missouri's like, what, the 7th seed now?
Yeah. They're sitting at 500.
Which isn't that far away from, that double bye, that top 4 seed.
Right.
But it feels like a far away, especially with the A&M game getting canceled this weekend. That's pretty much as easy of a win as you're going to get in conference season at home.
Yeah.
So you need those kind of games on your schedule, and Missouri's losing those games, it seems like. So
if you don't know yet, Missouri lost to Ole Miss 60-53, and this was maybe the worst basketball game I've ever seen in my life. It was horrendous.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was really bad.
There were stretches where neither team could score. Both teams were just throwing the ball around, kicking the ball around, throwing up random, there were shot clock violations. There was over and back. There was, throwing the ball out of bounds. There were desperation shot clock heaves that like bounced off the top of the backboard.
Ole Miss their offense was exactly what we needed it to be to win the game. Like, that was like, you couldn't have asked for a better, like, you couldn't have asked for a more perfect situation where Ole Miss scores 60 points. You're like, oh, easy win.
I texted you before the game. I was looking at their loss to Mississippi State, and Ole Miss in that game shot 44% from 2 and 26% from 3. And I said, that's the kind of thing we need tonight. 44% from 2, 26% from 3. Against Missouri, Ole Miss shot 41% from 2, 27% from 3. Yeah. And won by 7.
Oh man, yeah. So we got exactly what we needed from them on offense. Like, they were throwing up terrible shots most of the time. Like, Jarkel Joyner probably went back to earth and was probably who he normally is, and was like shooting basically taking the worst shot in basketball, like the long 2 and missing it most of the time, and like random power forwards like shooting threes and stuff like that. And we held Romello White in check for the most part, and you couldn't ask for something better than that. And Missouri's offense was just way even worse than it normally is. And I don't know what it is. Is it that zone defense? I think it's the zone, and I think Xavier Pinson, like I said, I feel like the key to our offense functioning well is, him getting in and out of the lane and creating and getting to the rim or dishing it off or whatever it is. And whenever I feel like he just feels like he can't get to the rim in a zone defense, like he doesn't attack like he would normally.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can put it all on the zone, because they do enough little things. Like, they'll bring Mitchell Smith up to the high post area around the free throw line, and they're pretty good at getting it to him, and he's good at distributing to some extent from that position.
Mm-hmm. And Kobe was running that a little bit last night too, and tried to get it to Tillman a couple times. And
yeah, I mean, there was just some...
They fumbled it out of bounds.
Yeah, there were some easy plays. I mean, Tillman had a size advantage a couple times where, and the commentating crew was talking about like, get the ball up to him higher. But I mean, there was one where it just bounced right off his hands and went out of bounds. And so there's not much else you can do. I mean, he had a great size advantage. Kobe, I think, tossed it up to him, and it resulted in a turnover. And I don't know what you're supposed to do there. I mean, they only had 13 turnovers, but it was a fairly low possession game. So that was still 21% of their possessions were turnovers.
That's too much. I I feels like there's been a lot of announcer criticism recently, and probably justifiably so. You've got, was it that South Carolina game? We had the ESPN crew and Jimmy Dykes and Carl Ravitch or whatever, and they were like talking about literally anything except the Mizzou game that they're supposed to be calling.
What are you going to do in a blowout, though?
That's true. I didn't have a huge issue with that. It was whatever,
Yeah.
but
I would take those two every day.
oh gosh, me too.
Obviously, give me Tom Hart.
Yeah, for sure.
And Sunvold. Where's he been?
It was definitely like story time in a game that wasn't all that close or competitive, so I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But Damian Fishback is another story.
Golly.
I just can't do it, and it seems like he's always calling these games where we're playing some middling team in the middle of the week and we always lose.
Maybe he's the curse.
I think he is something. There is a curse, and I don't know what it is, but there is something. There's something going on.
Yeah, he had a few calls last night.
Was he trying to say that? I don't know. After a while, I was kind of watching the game, but I wasn't listening because I kind of tuned him out after a while. Am I right that he was trying to say Missouri's defense is better without Jeremiah Tillman on the floor?
I don't have a good answer for you, unfortunately. I had muted it by that time.
I should have.
That was pretty late in the game when you asked about that, and I don't have a good answer. Maybe somebody out there heard that more clearly or wants to brave their replay of the game. And
if he really said that, if they want to brave the replay, yeah, don't you don't have to do that. If he really was saying that, which not only is he wrong, but it just seems like kind of a weird thing to say about a amateur athlete on a national broadcast. But anyways, terrible announcing, terrible game.
Oh, one thing that was bad about the announcing in the South Carolina game was they took Kobe Brown and Keyshawn Bryant, and they were mixing them together and forming Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, the first time he said Kobe Bryant, I think they both realized it. And
there was like a 10-second pause.
Didn't know what to say.
Like,
oh yeah, if Kobe Bryant was on the floor, then it was awkward.
Yeah, like there's a lot when you do something like that, you just go, oops, I mean Kobe Brown. But obviously, you're watching a basketball game with a person named Kobe. Like that's gonna happen from time to time. I think it's understandable. And
just so happened
there's a Bryant on the other team.
Yes.
And there was one moment where one of them said Kobe, and mistakenly, I can't remember what exactly happened, but one of them said Bryant. Bryant's playing well, and the other one thought Kobe Brown. Like in his head, he turned it into Kobe Bryant and started talking about number 24 in black, and they had to be like, "Oh no, I'm talking about Keyshawn Bryant for South Carolina." Like, oh right, yeah, the name that you actually said. All right, that was commentator criticism with Kyle and Cameron.
Honestly, like I don't really care that much about announcers. I'm genuinely, all I care about is what's on the screen. I'm watching the game, and the announcers are completely secondary to me.
If they make a good point, great. If not,
a lot of times I'm not even listening that closely. But when it starts getting pointed out on Twitter, and when it's Damian Fishback, and I'm already just like listening with a critical ear, then you hear everything. It's more amplified, but
starting to become a segment,
right?
Well, I mean, the SEC network crews, man, like just sometimes they're really not. Well, and they're calling it from home.
They've sent the good ones up to ESPN apparently. I had wondered a few times where Jimmy Dykes was, and turns out he got called up to the big leagues. So you got to have that prime position for him to call your game from home. I mentioned that Missouri scored 1.26 points per possession against South Carolina. That dropped to 0.85 points per possession against Ole Miss. So I thought I'd look back at some of the worst offensive performances in the Kim Pom era for Mizzou. So if we're looking at offensive efficiency, the worst one on record is the January 2015 game against Kentucky. That was a 49-point loss, and Missouri scored 37 points.
What year was that? 2013?
15.
I mean 15?
Yeah.
Was
January.
I think we talked about this recently. Was this Karl Anthony Towns year, Devin Booker year?
I think so.
or maybe
Yes. Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, Harrison Twins, Willie Cauley-Stein.
it's a decent college squad.
Trey Lyles, Dakari Johnson, Tyler Ulis,
Good grief.
Derek Willis, Marcus Lee. Pretty good team they had there in Lexington that year. Another one was another low point was the same year, 2015 against Georgia. Missouri scored 44 points in that one.
I don't even remember that game, to be honest.
And then I was trying to find a more recent one, 2017 Texas A&M game. They scored 43 points, lost that one 60-43 at home. So obviously, the Kim Anderson era is all over that offensive efficiency, the downside of the offensive efficiency chart.
We went through 3 years of that.
Yeah.
Think how bad we feel right now.
Yeah.
Which, in comparison, I mean, we're still going to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
We
wouldn't have been able to have a podcast back then. Who would listen? Like, we're going to struggle to get people to listen to us talk about this Ole Miss game, and we're going to have some fun with it. That would have been not fun at all, talking about those seasons.
Well, there's actually like hope.
But we
for
would
the
actually
future.
do it, though. You and I, in our like private lives, we would still just like talk about Kim Anderson era Mizzou basketball like weekly. And that's when you know you have a problem.
That's when you know you need a podcast.
Right. So I mentioned earlier in the South Carolina game, the South Carolina made a little run to cut it to 59-52 with about 10 minutes left. So Missouri had 59 points in that game with about 10 minutes left. In the Ole Miss game, Mizzou answered an Ole Miss run with a 15-2 run to tie the game at 39 points with 11 minutes left in the game. So 20 fewer points.
How do you go on a 15-2 run in a game where there's this low scoring, this low possessions, and still lose?
Because Ole Miss went on a 14-2 run right before that. But, yeah, the teams were tied at 39, and that was after both teams had gone on nice little runs. It was just, I mean, it was awful to watch. I mean, and actually the first 5 minutes, the teams were scoring pretty well, and I thought, you know, we're going to have to do something on defense because Ole Miss is scoring a little bit too easily.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss kind of stiffened up on defense for sure. They're frustrating, man. They're really, really good on defense, and they take away Missouri's strength, and that's getting in the lane, and that's scoring down low. They completely minimize that part of Missouri's game, and I don't know. There's such a bad matchup, and I feel like Missouri either has to figure out a way to attack the zone better or they got to shoot threes better, and that's pretty much your only two options.
Yeah, Ole Miss jumped up to 16th nationally in defensive efficiency after that game.
Yeah, I believe it. They're really that good.
As far as anybody who could do anything on offense for Missouri, Mark Smith, 3 for 6 from three. You like to see that. So he had 11 points. Absolutely nobody getting to the line. Only shot 11 free throws.
Yeah, the referees were really, which is, I guess, for the flow of the game is good, but yeah, they were really, people were getting hacked at times in this game and wasn't getting called. I don't think either team reached the bonus in either half.
Yeah, Ole Miss shot 19 free throws, but some of that was late game fouling.
Mm-hmm.
This Missouri team's not going to win a lot of games when they only get to the line 11 times, although we've seen this season for some reason in conference play they've been unable to convert from the free throw line. I need to look and see like total free throws attempted or like free throws attempted per game this year compared to last year, because that's got to be way down this year. So maybe they're just like not shooting enough of them to get comfortable at the line. You wouldn't think so. I'm trying to think of any other even slight bright spots. Kobe Brown's still been looking good. He a lot of times is doing everything he can. Javon Pickett.
I was about to say.
Is he hurt?
I think so.
Why is he playing at all then?
I don't know. And he shouldn't be, because clearly his ankle's still bothering him. And I know he just wants to be out there and compete, but I really think he's hurting the team when he's out there.
His minutes played are very strange over the last 7 or 8 games. 2 minutes, 17, 8, 21, 16, 5. So 3 games in there over 15 minutes and 3 games under 9. Don't quite understand what's going on there. Missouri going to bounce back from this one?
What do you mean? Like win their next game? If they're playing Texas A&M, I'd say yes.
All right, let's talk about that. Unless you have anything else to talk about this Ole Miss game.
I wish that I wouldn't have bought the lie that all things are good in the world, and this. I don't know, man. I still feel like there's an element of like it just this is fine. It doesn't like kill our season.
The fact that it was Ole Miss actually makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah,
even
it's just because we match up terribly,
yeah.
and we have a history of this. We've still had an incredible season. I definitely hope to be in a better, incredible season is a little strong. We've had a really good season, better than expectations, and better than Missouri's had in years past. But considering where we were at one point in the season, definitely where we're going to finish is not as good as anyone had hoped. But I don't know. Sometimes a little adversity can make things that happen later on feel a little bit more special. So we'll see.
I'd be down for feeling special. So Missouri was supposed to play Texas A&M this weekend. I mean, as close to an automatic win as you can get.
I don't think Texas A&M's played a game since January. They're just like, we're just going to get COVID and be done with the season.
Gosh.
This is what a lot of losing teams in the past have wished they could get COVID and be done with the season. So
Duke thought they wanted to, like, at the beginning of the season.
Now they're randomly. I feel like the past week or two has been really good for those struggling blue blood programs. Like Kentucky destroyed Tennessee, Duke, and North Carolina. Michigan State beat Illinois yesterday. Yeah, some of those programs are fighting back a little bit.
Yeah. Is Indiana a blue blood? Like historically,
probably,
but
I guess
recent memory, not. I don't know.
Yeah, they haven't been good in 3 or 4 years.
And even when they haven't done a lot in the NCAA tournament. Anyway, Texas A&M, 130 ranked KenPom team.
We already destroyed them on the road, so I definitely wouldn't be too worried about playing them at home.
Yep, they're not scary at all. And you're right, their last game was January 30th. So will they play another game this year? Nobody knows.
Probably not.
And then Missouri's got 2 other games hanging out there. They were supposed to have home games against LSU and Vanderbilt. And even if you're being as realistic as possible, you have to think that obviously Texas A&M and Vanderbilt are 2 wins. So, and I'll take my chances with this Missouri team against LSU, who doesn't play that great a defense.
Yeah, and that's a quad 1 opportunity for sure, win or lose. I definitely.
And it's a home game.
Exactly. That's 3 home games that you may or may not have on your schedule, and there's really not any chance for Missouri to get in that top 4 seed range in the SEC standings if they don't have those games on their schedule.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate that those are the opportunities that they lost. Well, there's still like a week between the end of the regular season and the SEC tournament where they could fit at least a game or 2 in maybe, but
it worries me a little bit that there's not been any idea of a plan anywhere. Yeah. I mean, last time I heard anything about it was the SEC commissioner was attending a Mizzou game, and they were interviewing him on the sideline, and he said, we're looking at that week between the regular season and the SEC tournament.
I don't know why not.
Yeah, that's when you have to do it. But he said we don't want to get ahead of ourselves and schedule stuff only to have to adjust it, a second time, which I understand. But we're getting pretty close now to the point where surely they're gonna be thinking about scheduling that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. Missouri at this point, I'm somewhat scared that they'll look worse the more games they play. But if because we've seen how good they can be, I want more games to get things tuned up and get back to that level.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll have the SEC tournament to do a little bit of that.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens with those. I mean, I'd be happy to get 2 of those games on the schedule, and I honestly really wish that we could have played A&M this weekend, just because I think that's good for confidence. But maybe not with this team, because once we win, we decided we were going to lose the next game after that.
So that brings us to Florida. So maybe Missouri will feel the pressure and show up on the road in Gainesville. Florida, even without Keontae Johnson, who obviously they've been without the majority of the season, they're solid. I don't quite understand why they don't have more wins than they do, honestly. Even without Keontae Johnson, I feel like they should be battling for number 2 in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
So they've slipped up a few times, notably against Kentucky and Mississippi State, and then inexplicably against South Carolina at home. They dropped that one.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So Florida is 26th in KenPom. They're 12-6 on the season, 8-5 in conference play. They are 34th on offense, 28th on defense, and in conference play they're 3rd in offensive efficiency, 5th in defensive efficiency. Looking back at their non-conference schedule, they dropped one to Florida State. That would have been a good opportunity, but they lost it by 12. They had 3 wins against 125 teams and up.
Yeah, they've been a little bit all over the place this year, and I think they've had a couple of different COVID breaks. They've probably lost some non-conference games, and I think one of the breaks was during conference season too. But yeah, when I think about as a whole, just off the top of my head, what I feel like Florida's accomplished this year should be better than 4th or 5th or whatever they are in the SEC standings. But
and you look at their main contributors. I mean, Trey Mann is 4th in KenPom's Player of the Year, SEC Player of the Year standings. They got him, Colin Castleton, obviously the transfer from Michigan, and Noah Locke, Scotty Lewis, names that we've heard before. Locke shooting 40% from 3 on the season. I just think they have a squad that can beat anybody. Mm-hmm. And if they had Keontae Johnson healthy, then I think they're really competing with Alabama, and it'd be those 2 and everybody else.
I agree.
Well, we thought that was going to be Tennessee at the beginning of the season too, so you never know when the games are actually getting played, especially in a weird season like this.
Yeah, Tennessee's just, I think, too offensively challenged to keep up every single night, but I really do think Florida's offense is as good as anybody in the SEC, and I think that's what gives them that ability, that high ceiling that they have to really beat anybody is really on any given night. Yeah, they can just go off, and they have so many guys that can shoot efficiently.
Yeah, looking at some of their advanced metrics, one thing that stands out to me is they are 3rd in the country in block shots. So I'm a little worried that Missouri's going to get their shot.
Yeah, that doesn't match up well. I was watching Florida and Auburn play a couple nights ago, and Florida was destroying Auburn really from the beginning of the game, but they were just forcing so many turnovers in that first half that I was watching. I don't know if that's a trend that they've done all year or not, but Auburn may just kind of be done with their season too.
Yeah, they got that postseason ban. And I'm not seeing Cooper on the box score here. Sharif Cooper, is he out?
Oh, really? I don't even know.
So I was about to be really impressed that they held Auburn to 57 points with
that makes
Sharif
sense.
Cooper, but he's not on the box score. But Auburn turned the ball over 21 times, which was 30% of their possessions.
Wow. Missouri's impressed.
Yeah. Obviously, I kind of like Florida. I think that they're just as likely as anybody to make a run in the SEC tournament.
Yep.
They're just pretty well-rounded, and They can score multiple ways. Castleton inside is very efficient, and Trey Mann and Noah Locke can both hit threes at a pretty high clip.
Yeah, I think Trey Mann had about 15 points in the first 5 minutes of this game against Auburn. He was making it from everywhere.
He's just a sophomore, too. So
Really?
hopefully he finds his way to the NBA sooner rather than later.
Would you like to get paid, son?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not feeling great about this one for Missouri. It just doesn't seem like, with the way things are going, this is such a bizarre team. How do you...
Everything you're saying makes me think they're going to pull off a win somehow. Like
exactly.
The fact that literally everything doesn't make sense. So, yeah, I guess they'll go ahead and win.
But I don't know. I feel like if Florida was like ranked like 12th in the country, and like then I would say like, oh yeah, Missouri's gonna maybe pull the upset here, and that would be like a nice little trendy upset pick. But
the fact that their record is ugly and they're not ranked and they've stumbled a few times, but I still think they're really underrated and really, really talented. I think that's a perfect recipe to just get destroyed.
This is a beatable team, but they're actually good and have just underperformed, so they're probably going to step it up.
Yeah, what kind of notoriety are we going to get for beating Florida? Not as good as beating Alabama, so we're not gonna play our best game. I'm getting a little cynical here.
It's frustrating.
It is.
I think Missouri drops it.
Yeah.
I think they probably, even just predicting how many points Missouri will score is an impossible task this season.
What, you mean scoring the 93 versus South Carolina and then following it up with 53 points isn't weird or inconsistent at all? I agree. I think Missouri loses to Florida. I think it's not terribly competitive. I think they lose 76-63.
I think maybe if they could maybe get Castleton in foul trouble, then they would potentially have an advantage down low. I'm looking for Kobe Brown to continue his good play, because I think they may have a weakness at the 4 spot without Keontae Johnson. I still think Missouri loses, but I think it'll be maybe relatively close, maybe something like 78-74, Florida. Need some shots to fall from anywhere on the court.
Yeah. Need Pinson to come back. We just need him to play decently. Like what he did last night. 2 points on 1 of 5 from 2, 0 from 4 from 3-point range. Didn't attempt a free throw. Like that, just we're not going to beat very many teams with Pinson having that kind of night. He's got to attack and he's got to draw fouls and get other players involved. Like I've said, I really think he's the key, especially to beat a team that's probably more talented than you are. Xavier's got to be a big part of that.
Bracketology time.
I got some breaking news.
Yeah?
That I'd like to present to you.
Okay.
Some kind of a funny little Twitter interaction with a guy named Coach Eli Drinkwitz. I think you're probably familiar.
I've heard of him.
Kind of a funny little Twitter interaction that happened just out of the blue. This guy named Nathan on Twitter, he's at NPS Mizzou, tweets at Coach Drinkwitz out of the blue and just says, "I could really use a big recruiting win right now. Pretty please." And Coach Drinkwitz actually responds to him and says, "Give me a few minutes and see what we can make happen." And so I thought that he was just kind of being sarcastic. But nope, we've got a commitment on our hands here for the actually for the 2021 class. And we don't know who it is yet, but he's just sent out the bat signal for the 2021 class. So thank you, Nathan, for bringing up the idea that maybe Missouri could get a commitment. And thank you, Coach Drinkwitz.
They're in cahoots, I say.
I don't think they are. I think maybe. I mean, that could certainly.
That's pretty.
It's pretty random. Like we haven't got any news in a while.
It's pretty high IQ of Coach Drinkwitz if he's like, hey, tweet this. Like, Like shoots a text message to somebody he knows, like, "Hey, ask about recruiting."
He's already on God level. Like he can't possibly get any better.
Ask about recruiting, and I've got something for you.
That's pretty great. If that wasn't planned, that's the greatest thing.
Yeah.
And we'll never know, but it's pretty funny.
Anybody who's reporting on that and whatever this commitment is, you gotta make sure to mention our guy Nathan.
Yes, thank you, Nathan.
Thanks for that breaking news bulletin.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you who it is. I don't know yet.
We'll find out.
A breaking news bulletin.
Now we're back to bracketology.
Yes.
It's getting worse every day.
Back to bad stuff.
Getting
worse every day.
Let's see when Joe Lenardi last updated his bracket, and you tell me, Kyle, what your updated bracket looks like for the Missouri Tigers.
Well, it probably would have been a 6 seed on his most recent update, which probably would have been before this game last night, the Ole Miss game. I think they're a 7 seed right now. And after losing to Florida, and if they have a bad showing in the SEC tournament, I mean, they could be anywhere from the 8 to 10 range, which is crazy. Considering when you look at their resume, they probably have one of the better resumes in the country as far as who the quality of teams they've beaten. But
yeah, you're right. They were a 6 seed according to Joe Lenardi before the Ole Miss game, and on Bart Torvik, he has that. Oof. He's got him at a 9.
Oh, and
right.
Bart Torvik is usually pretty favorable.
Yeah.
For Mizzou.
He's got their overall ranking at 39, which is better than KenPom.
KenPom's like 51.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Let's just see what happens since there's just one game left on the published schedule. Let's see what happens if I turn this Florida game into a win. Let's see what Bart Torvik thinks about that. Should I not? Is that too...
You can. It'll bump him up to an 8 probably.
Playing with fire a little bit. Bumps him up to an 8.
What happens if they lose?
If they lose, he's got them... Drum roll. Drop into a 10.
I mean, it's a good thing this season isn't much longer because we might be entering bubble territory. 2 weeks ago, we were a 4 seed, according to the selection committee, the actual people who will decide the bracket.
Now, it's worth mentioning, I believe at that exact moment, when the selection committee had Missouri at a 4, I believe Bart Torvik had him at a 6.
Okay.
Like the very first 6 seed on his list. So that's a pretty noteworthy discrepancy.
Yeah, I still don't feel terrible about where Missouri's going to end up seed-wise, but they really do have to... They've got to pull off a win against Florida, or they have to win at least 2 games in the SEC tournament. And I think they can still hang on to a 6-7 seed if they really impress. I think they can stay.
And we got to see what happens with these games that could be rescheduled.
That's true. Yeah, they could still get 2 or 3 more wins in the regular season if we're lucky.
Yeah, but I think you got to have them at an 8 right now. Yeah. If the season ended today, and I think obviously they could easily play themselves incredibly. They could play themselves onto the bubble, and they could still play themselves into a 6, I think.
What if that first, let's say Missouri ends up around 7 or 8 seed in the SEC tournament. What kind of team are they potentially looking at in a first? I guess it would be first round game. Yeah. I mean, they're probably playing Georgia, South Carolina.
I would hope South Carolina.
I mean, seriously, think about the difference between those 2 teams. Good grief. I mean,
that's just such risky territory.
We could be playing a Mississippi State team, depending on where they end up. That doesn't sound great for a first round game in the SEC tournament. That sounds terrifying. And I would almost rather play Arkansas or something. Yeah. Just like, I don't know.
It does kind of feel like that. It's like I'd rather play Arkansas, LSU, like somebody that hasn't seen Missouri yet.
Yeah. I mean, anything except for Ole Miss or Mississippi State, please. anybody besides those two teams.
And basically, give me Missouri. They're matching up better against teams that are good on offense and struggle on defense, because Missouri just can't score on these elite defensive teams. But yet, you're sitting there with wins over Tennessee, Alabama, and Illinois.
Yeah, I think
it's a mystery. This is a mystery of a season.
It really is. It's weird. It's been a roller coaster. It's been inconsistent.
And there's lots of fan bases kind of feeling the same way.
For sure.
I mean,
that's,
think about what Tennessee fans are feeling.
That's the
right
nature
now.
of college basketball. Yeah. It's all over the place, and that's what makes it fun. Is it's unpredictable. But it's just like Missouri, and especially Xavier Penson, kind of forgets that, oh yeah, we're good now. We beat some good teams. We're gonna get teams the best shot. We've got a target on our back. I'm gonna show up on the scouting report now. Teams they have film of what I've been doing. I can't just keep doing the same things over and over and over and expect to never see any resistance. People are gonna figure you out. And so Xavier Penson and other players on Missouri's team have to figure out how to get over that hump now. They have to realize, this is what I've done, but this is how I got to change to be better. And it seems like they're not ready to have that conversation and haven't come to grips with, oh yeah, we're that good team now, that we're going to get teams' best shots.
Yeah, they were ahead of almost every team in the SEC standings. So that means you're the one that they see as okay, yeah, we gotta get up past Missouri. That's who we're looking at.
Yep. It's an opportunity to play against Missouri now.
Well, we got to finish strong.
I left this podcast last week on a positive note.
Yeah.
Saying Missouri was going to win 2 games. Saying we were going to bounce back. It's all going to be peachy. I'm not sure I feel that optimism right now, but it's okay. It's not panic time. We're not on the bubble. We're going to be in the NCAA tournament.
The good thing about this tournament, this upcoming NCAA tournament, is if you are rooting for a team and you're not a fan of Gonzaga or Baylor, just basically plan on losing in the first round.
Anything can happen.
You will absolutely set yourself up for disappointment if you think your team's going to make a run in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Because outside of those two teams, anybody can beat anybody.
Well, that's the thing about Missouri's history is we haven't won a lot of NCAA tournament games.
True.
Especially in the last 10 years.
Just get us in.
I'm not sure we've won a single game in the last 10 years. So if we can just get in the tournament, then it's all just fun.
Playing with house money.
Exactly. But Vegas still likes Missouri. Missouri is third best odds to win the SEC tournament as of yesterday, according to Bet Online or something.
You put some money on that?
No, I'm not. But I can see that.
Don't bet on Missouri, folks.
If Missouri can make it out of
if
Missouri can make it out of the first round, and if they can beat that middling Georgia, Mississippi State, whoever it is,
they've proven they can beat Alabama.
Exactly. I think that they can.
They can beat Arkansas. They can beat Tennessee.
As long as they're motivated, nobody is a impossible victory.
That's about as positive as we're going to get, I think. So we better end it right there.
That's probably right.
That's the most positive note we're going to get, I think.
How'd we do? We spun it pretty well.
Yeah.
We did our best, but hang in there, guys. Season's almost over. We're about to hit some postseason basketball.
I feel like we're the meme of the smiling mask pulled over the crying face. Everything's fine.
Oh, you guys should have. Well, if we recorded the podcast last night, then we probably would have been a little more. That crying face might have come out.
There would have been no mask.
No mask. Yeah. No moss.
All right,
everybody. That's all we got for you.
Yep.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Mizzou Sports Pod. You can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
If you want to see the video version of the podcast, go over to YouTube and subscribe there. Give us a like, comment. I'll reply. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next week.